So, you're thinking about switching to Linux. That's awesome, but then you immediately hit that wall of choice, right? Ubuntu, Mint, Arch, Debian. It feels like you just walked into the middle of a never-ending argument. They call it the distro wars for a very good reason. And this quote, this just nails it, doesn't it? It's pure chaos, it's confusing, and it seems like everyone has this one single correct opinion. But all that noise, it totally misses the most important point. So we're not going to do that here. This isn't another battle in the distro wars. Instead, let's think of this as choosing a path. We're going to explore two fantastic but very different distributions, Zorin OS and Fedora, to help you figure out which one just clicks with your style. Let's lay out our two paths. On one side, we've got Zorin OS. This is for what we'll call the seamless switcher. You know, someone coming over from Windows or Mac OS who just wants everything to feel familiar and easy. Then, on the other side, there's Fedora. This is for the future-focused tinkerer, the user who wants the absolute latest tech and loves to get in there and customize their system to perfection. Let's dig into that first path. Okay, so path one is all about making that jump to Linux as painless and intuitive as humanly possible. And that is exactly where Zorin OS shines. Its entire reason for being is to get rid of that steep learning curve. I mean, Zorin is built from the ground up to look and feel like what you already know. That taskbar, the start menu, the little icons in the corner, it's all designed to just eliminate any friction so you can get right to work without having to relearn everything. So how do they pull this off? Well, for starters, it's built on a rock-solid foundation, Ubuntu's long-term support release, which means it's super stable. But the real magic is this thing called Zorin Appearance. You can change the entire desktop layout, from Windows style to Mac OS style, with just one click. It's crazy. It even has built-in support for running some of your old Windows apps, and a Lite edition that can make an ancient computer feel brand new. Now, Zorin has a free Core edition. And let's be super clear, this is a complete 100% functional operating system. You are not getting some crippled trial version. The paid Pro edition, that's where you get the extra goodies, like more of those premium layouts, and it comes preloaded with a bunch of creative software. The key thing to remember is that the core experience is totally free. The Pro version is really about convenience and, of course, supporting the developers behind it. All right, let's switch gears completely and talk about path two. If Zorin is all about familiar comfort, Fedora is all about the future. This is the OS for people who want the newest of the new, the latest features, and maybe even a direct connection to the professional, corporate world of Linux. Okay, to really get Fedora, you have to understand this idea of a community upstream. See, Fedora is sponsored by Red Hat, a massive enterprise Linux company. What this means is that all the new, cutting-edge stuff gets developed and tested first in Fedora by the community. Once it's all proven to be stable and reliable, it graduates up to Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or RHLIX, the stuff that huge corporations run their servers on. And that whole relationship makes it a massive favorite for developers. You always get the latest stable kernel, which means fantastic support for brand new hardware. It also gives you a pure, clean desktop experience without a ton of extra stuff bolted on. And maybe most importantly, because of that direct link to RHEL, the skills you learn just by using your Fedora machine every day are directly valuable in the corporate IT world. Okay, that's all great in theory, but how do these two actually feel in the real world? Let's roll up our sleeves, look at some numbers, and see how they really perform. So if we look at Zorin OS Lite, the version for older hardware, the numbers are pretty impressive. It boots in under 8 seconds. Nice. But the big one is that it idles using only about 850 megabytes of RAM. That's incredibly light. Now, Fedora's numbers are usually a bit higher, but honestly, the real story isn't about these idle stats at all. Because here's the thing, idle RAM usage doesn't really tell you what it's like to live with an OS day to day. The whole philosophy behind each of these systems leads to very different outcomes, especially when we start talking about things like power management and optimization. And this is where our two paths really diverge. So let's talk about the fine print. Come on, every choice has a catch, right? A trade-off. And for Zorin and Fedora, these trade-offs are what really define who they're for. With Zorin, the trade-off is pretty straightforward. While the free core experience is fantastic, the team puts its most polished cosmetic touches and those convenient pre-installed app bundles behind that one-time payment for Pro. It's simply how they fund their work, but it's a choice you've got to make. Now for Fedora, the trade-off is a bit more technical. As this user found, out of the box, it can be a little less optimized for things like laptop battery life compared to something like Zorin. It prioritizes having the absolute latest software over having super aggressive power-saving tweaks enabled by default. But this is exactly where that tinkerer identity comes into play. Because here is the Fedora philosophy in action. It gives you the tools to fix it yourself perfectly. By installing a simple utility called PowerTop and telling it to do its thing, a user can instantly make dozens of power-saving tweaks. Fedora gives you the ultimate control, but it kind of expects you to grab the steering wheel. So here we are, the final crossroads. We've looked at two very different but equally amazing takes on what a Linux desktop can be. Now it's time to decide which path actually fits you. Let's just break it all down, side by side. Zorin OS is for that seamless switcher, the beginner who wants a stable, it-just-works feeling built on the massive Ubuntu software library. Fedora is for that future-focused tinkerer, the developer or power user who wants the latest and greatest software and an experience they can tune to absolute perfection, all on a cutting-edge, enterprise-grade foundation. So, after all that, which one of those sounds more like you? Are you looking for the most comfortable, welcoming on-ramp into the world of Linux? Or does your heart beat a little faster at the idea of building and tuning a system that's on the absolute bleeding edge? There is no wrong answer here. The only real question left is, which path is yours?